So I want to ask you about TikTok, because I've spoken to people on here before and they're like, TikTok is the way. And obviously you are a full example of how, big you can scale on TikTok and stuff like that. I hate making the stuff. And I find myself like shoulding all over myself. Even last night I was on the app and I was saying to Kurt, I just should be doing so much more TikToks. I know that it's so big for scaling, but I just can't be asked. So first of all, do you think it is like massively worth the investment and just go for it? I feel like you're probably going to say yes. Secondly, what are your tips for it? What are your tips for really making the app something that benefits you as a brand?
Okay, so I'm going to answer your first question first with, should you go onto TikTok? I'm not going to say yes, okay? Because for me, going onto TikTok, yes, it really, really helped. It's what helped me grow my platforms and, help me do the job that I'm doing today. But I went onto TikTok in a really unique time. It was a month into the pandemic. Everyone was on their phone like 24/7, and we can't downplay that because life was so incredibly different then than it is now. And I'm not just talking about the fact that you can go out for dinner. I'm talking about people's mental states. People were on their phones 24/7. People were constantly looking for a purpose, something to do, something to fill their time. We had a huge amount of population that didn't even have jobs anymore, and a huge amount that were furloughed, right?
I baked a banana bread for the first time in my life.
There we have it. Everyone baked banana bread. Everybody and their nan and their cat and their dog baked a banana bread. And it was a trend, because what you see with these trends, especially during lockdown and like COVID times, were that a lot of the trends were much more practical things, like, the trend is to make feta pasta, the trend is to do a banana bread, the trend are these dances and blah, 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 blah. Now the trends are more so about the sounds, right? But these trends were doing practical things because people during COVID times were looking for a purpose without even realizing perhaps that that's what they were doing. They were looking for something to fill up their time, but they were looking for something for them to focus on that day. Today is Tuesday. Out of 10 Tuesdays we've had in lockdown, I need something to do today because I'm going crazy. And the way TikTok operated back then was that based on that. That's why things like that were trending. Now you very, very rarely see a recipe trending. The last time I saw a recipe trending to this scale was Weetabix porridge, which I don't even think hit it out to like the mainstream media. It was only the niche within TikTok, right? That was trending. And the salmon and rice dish. Do you remember that, by Emily Marco? I don't know if anybody's familiar with that, but that went absolutely crazy and absolutely everybody was making that. But it was nowhere near as big as banana bread and as feta pasta and these certain dance moves that everyone was doing, the different dance talks, as they called them. So I went on TikTok in a really, really unique time when people were looking for a purpose. One purpose that swept the nation, thanks to probably Joe Wicks, is getting fit and healthy and looking after yourself. And really what happened in that time was everyone was looking for a healthy, delicious, low-calorie recipe, and that's where I popped up. Everyone was looking for a good recipe, not good recipe, sorry. Everyone was looking for a good workout. That's what Joe Wicks was. And people were looking for good gym wear to wear. Gymshark was doing exceptionally well, okay? I was buying from Gymshark for the first time. And then there were a few other people and brands and businesses that absolutely popped off because they provided the equipment and they provided the information that people needed to know to learn how to like get fit and get healthy and to give them that purpose, during lockdown. Okay, that's what I'm going to do. I've got no excuse now. I used to see memes going around where you can't lose weight in lockdown when you're never going to do it because you've literally got all the time in the world kind of thing. And so that's what captivated people into me, was because they wanted to lose weight, and because that was almost like a trending culture at the time, was getting fit and healthy in lockdown. And I really fit into that, fit in like a glove, and the times were perfect. They all aligned and did really, really well as a result of that. But
I guess it goes back to being the solution of the main problem at that time, doesn't it?
Yeah,
it's marketing 101.
Yeah, definitely. And what the problem now is, within the industry that I started in, within that health and fitness space, is that so many people got involved in fitness in a negative way. People were like, okay, well, I have to do 20 ab workouts a week. I have to eat X amount of calories because I saw another girl eating X amount of calories. And people just got so twisted, like messed up in all the information, all the content and everything that was going out, where now I would say it's really sad to say that there's almost been a pandemic of eating disorders. And it's such a huge thing where so many people have experienced such horrific experiences because of it, because of the misinformation, because of, you can't blame TikTok. You can only look at the creators. But one day someone's saying eat 1,000 calories, the next saying eat 1,500, and the next saying eat 800, and things like that. Such unhealthy advice that was being pushed out there during this time, and people were following it. But where they're interacting, some people were interacting with me, they were seeing my recipes, but they may not have been seeing my advice. So they were never seeing the healthy side of it, or they were seeing my advice, they weren't seeing some of my recipes, so that they didn't know how actually you could achieve eating a high calorie day whilst still being completely full and eating, lots of proteins, good fats and carbs and things. And there was just such a misbalance of everything that now the industry has actually done a complete 180. It's flipped upside down on its head, and you've got hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of women, men, and everybody else that have experienced eating disorders because of it. And it's so sad, but it's almost becoming a culture within itself, that it's anti-diet culture, but also anti-weight loss in any shape or form. So I very quickly, was almost became a negative person for people to follow, because they didn't want to see anyone talk about calories because it was a trigger for them. They didn't want to see anybody sharing recipes that were deemed low calorie or healthy or whatever, because all food should be healthy, and that was a big thing. And so I started losing a lot of followers. I think I probably lost 6 or 7, 8,000 followers on TikTok within the space of a couple of weeks, because there was this pandemic of people. And then the same on Instagram, I noticed I was losing like 1,000 followers a week at one stage. And I was really concerned. I thought, I've quit my job. I've pursued this full time, and the industry has changed, and now I'm no longer relevant, and people don't want to see this type of content. But it was what I was putting out there, and I was just in this weird place with it. And because of all of that, it's really important to only get yourself on TikTok if you want to join TikTok, if you are doing something that is generally actually going to help people, but also if it's the right time, if that makes sense. Because if I went on TikTok now and started doing all of that, I don't think I would do anywhere near as well. Whereas the fact that I did it back then, it blew up because that's what was going on in the world around me. So if you were to go onto TikTok now and talk about something that maybe was popular 6 months ago, you would not do it as well as if you were to go on TikTok and talk about something that's popular now. I feel like that's really, really obvious to say, but people will turn around and say, yeah, but people still want to lose weight. There's still hundreds of thousands, millions of people that want to lose weight. But because that's not almost like the majority, it's really hard to grow your audience on TikTok now.
So do you think it's worth the investment in Instagram and doing all the reels and all of that?
I like Instagram a lot more personally, because I feel like you can actually connect with your audience a lot better. On TikTok, you can make the videos and post the videos, but unless you follow someone back, you can't even send them a message. So I can never have that one-to-one conversation with any of my audience members until they kind of converted over to Instagram. And I talk to people in the DMs like most days. I'd say probably 5 or 6 times a day I'm having a conversation with someone that I don't know because they've messaged me on Instagram, and it's really nice, and it's a good way to actually engage with your audience.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I see why what you're doing right now would have such a big impact, because on the days where I don't feel confident in myself, I'm like, my body post 2 kids is very different to my body as a professional dancer, which was before kids. And what I love about what you post is that you post all the stuff that we all have. You post your stretch marks, you post bits that are perhaps you wouldn't post before because you say they're unflattering, but you post all the stuff that we all have. And it really does make you feel good on those days where you're like, oh, I don't want to show up today. So surely there must be days though where you don't feel like showing up. So, a big thing about you is that you're 100% yourself, authentic, accepting of yourself. What do you do on the days when perhaps you just really don't feel that way?
Don't show up. That's generally speaking, that is my best advice. I went through such a long period of forcing myself to create content and to show up when I didn't feel like it. That is so detrimental. Like, don't do that. That can really, really hurt you, but also hurt your relationship with your audience. When you are forcing yourself to put content out there that you're not feeling, and you're not feeling in the best mood doing it, your audience can see it straight through you. Okay, you're on camera 24/7. Of course they can. They can see the slight changes. Okay, and I think what I really learned by forcing myself to push out content that I wasn't necessarily enjoying that much anymore, or I just didn't feel like showing up that day, was that you're doing that because you want to stay consistent, right? That's the biggest thing. Everyone's like, well, I have to stay consistent, so I have to show up. You're putting that pressure on yourself, so you're enjoying it even less. But all you're doing is actually putting content out there that is, even if you think it's great, probably not as good, because you've not put your heart and soul into it, because you haven't had that in you that day. And you're preventing yourself from enjoying a job that could be enjoyed so much more than you can imagine, because you're forcing yourself to put something out there that doesn't need to be out there that day. One thing I learned was that if I take a day off Instagram, no one actually is going to give a shit, and no one's going to notice. People don't care. It's fine. If you turn up 2-3 days later, you might get the odd message like, oh my god, I missed your post, or oh, I didn't see anything through the last few days, like I hope you're okay, or whatever. You're not going to be turning around and cancelled on Friday because you haven't posted since Monday even. So my biggest advice would be not to show up when you don't feel like showing up, because you, most importantly, need to have that break. You need to breathe and give yourself time. When you're a creative, having the time to breathe, take in the world around you, and look for new inspiration, even when you're not thinking about it, is so important. And if you're constantly feeling the pressure to show up, you can't do that. You're not facilitating that, and you need to facilitate that.